Welcome to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show, where you get advice you can trust. From home selling tips to investing, this is the talk show that will help you make the most money when selling your most valuable asset and save the most money when buying. Now here are your hosts, Dave McKay, along with Wally Kerr, broker and founder of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty in Oklahoma City.
Well, here we are. It is the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show. I'm Dave McKay, along with Wally and Cindy Kerr. The show today, as always, sponsored by our friends, partners, trusted business professionals.
Definitely.
Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage, and also by Best Protect Roofing and Construction. Wally and Cindy, welcome.
Hello. Great to be here.
Hey, Dave, have you looked at the calendar? It's June.
Yes.
It's June today.
Yes.
Can you believe it? 5 months of the year are already gone. I've actually done some research that we'll talk about today. Thought it'd be interesting this week as we kind of jump into our topics, Dave, talking about what the market's done through the first 5 months of the year, and what have sales prices done here in the metro? Are they up? Are they down? And how have these higher interest rates affected the market? We're going to talk about that today, along with moving out of your home and how to go to closing with no drama. So we'll have some fun with that one today.
And I have to say, over the years, we've learned from our mistakes and how to counsel our buyers and sellers to avoid that drama.
Well, Cindy's biggest drama was marrying me, but she's gotten accustomed to that. Dave, we're also going to talk about some home buyer habits that you just should kick. Okay. So if you're looking for a home, your kids or grandkids, there's some things that have to be a little bit different today. We're going to share those during the show, and also talk about what is a normal housing market anyway. Based on our discussions here, do either one of you feel like we're in a normal housing market?
I would say no. I'm going to say no.
So we're going to try to equate what we see today back to what a normal housing market was. And when you think about that, you got to go back a few years, don't you? Because was it normal 3 or 4 years ago?
No.
2, 3 years ago? No, and why not?
You know, this confluence of high interest rates but low inventory, I just can't say I've ever seen that before.
Real difference was there were low interest rates with low inventory.
Yes.
So kind of gets you a little bit confused and your head spinning about, wait a minute, when do we get back to this normal housing market? What's that expectation, and when is that going to occur?
Well, we're going to jump right into the show filled with wonderful real estate information like we do each and every week. Of course, we are here live. If you're listening Saturday, we're here Saturdays at 11 a.m., so Sunday, it is recorded, of course. Now, you can get all of the shows we've done in the past. Wally, I don't know how many we've done, 60, 70 shows, somewhere around there. We've done over a year's worth of shows. Obviously, that would be close to 60 plus. Now, you can go to wallytalkshouses.com. You can actually subscribe to get notifications when the new shows get added to the site. This has all the little topics with the titles of what you're going to be listening to, so it's real easy to search. You can find exactly what you want to listen to, what topic you want to listen to that day, or topics.
By the way, Dave, our first show was the last week of January of 2023.
Okay.
So we're coming up close to a year and a half on the air. It's gone fast, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Good times.
Stick around. We'll kick off the show in just a couple of minutes.
So you thought interest rates were going to go down? Hey, me too. It's Wally Kerr, and despite today's interest rates, the market's already picking up. Why sell your home without a safety net? It's like walking a high wire at the circus. There's just too much at stake. Call me to get your written guarantee that I'll sell your home in an agreed period or buy it myself at a price you and I agree to up front. Ask for Wally when you call us today at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at 330-3000. 330-3000.
Best Protect Roofing and Construction has been serving the Oklahoma community since 2017 with trusted professionals and a proven track record. Best Protect Roofing and Construction has the local knowledge to ensure every roofing project is compliant and hassle-free. They offer free roof inspections to assess damage, provide accurate quotes, and recommend the best solution for your home. Call today, 405-473-9599. Best Protect Roofing and Construction.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful. From knowing which program fits your situation the best to identifying the best terms. Hi, I'm Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage. I work closely with you every step of the way, from pre-qualification to helping you choose the home loan that's right for you. My promise is to provide transparency, timely communication, personal service, and closings on time. Call me today at 405-253-2276. That's 405-253-2276.
NMLS 984758. Gateway Mortgage, a division of Gateway First Bank. NMLS 7233. Equal housing lender.
If you or a family member will be selling or buying a home and would like to schedule an appointment with Wally, call 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr.
Well, Wally and Cindy, before we really get into the show, we have in the past taken calls from listeners who have certain individualized questions in their own specific cases, whether they're buying, they're selling. I know sometimes they've given you a call off air. They've called the office. If they want to call into the show but don't really want to be on the show, they can actually call, record their question, and we can answer their question on the air, and we can still do that, right?
Yeah, that's right, Dave. Just real simple. Any time of day, you can call 1-844-211-3817. It's that simple, 1-844-211-3817. 3817, and the recording will tell you exactly what to do. It's really easy, and we'll be glad to answer your questions here during our show.
Anybody can call in. It's recorded, and then they'll get their answer on the show.
Yeah, call any time of day, right, Cindy?
That's right.
Well, Wally, you said earlier this week you had a chance to hear a speaker that was at your Rotary Club this week that had some really good news about the future of the Metro, Oklahoma City, things that are going on, things that are coming to town that are going to be built. Expand on that if you could.
Dave, there's some really cool stuff coming to town. Maybe I just had not read enough about this Ocana, I think you call it, the resort that's coming in, which is going to be the Riverfront Hotel and spa and outdoor adventure lagoon and an amphitheater and the indoor water park. It's over 100,000 square feet of indoor space, the largest of its kind in the region. And it's just going to be so cool. There will be restaurants, and there's going to be a Native American marketplace because it's right next to the First Americans Museum there at I-35 and I-240. There's some great restaurants that have committed.
You know, when I look back on moving here, they were just putting in the Bricktown Canal. And now we just have so much right in our backyard. It's awesome.
Bricktown is a destination, and Scissortail Park is beautiful, the new convention center. And like you said, so many visitors, but businesses are holding conventions here in Oklahoma City. It's a destination for businesses just to come meet and hang out.
For the next 4 or 5 shows, I'm going to ask if there's any chance we could get Zach on to talk with us live a couple of times. Just want to talk about 2 things that Oklahoma City has coming, because I think a lot of our listeners may not have paid attention to it like me, and I'm just really excited about it. So for both of you, construction has now begun on a bike and pedestrian bridge that's going to span the Oklahoma River at Eastern Avenue, north of the water park. So this pedestrian bridge is 614 feet long.
Oh, wow.
And 20 feet wide, and it's a concrete and steel bridge with lighting. It's going to take about a year to complete. It's about a $5.7 million project. But what's cool is it's going to connect the trail on the south shore to the 4-mile Greenway River Trail on the north shore, and it's going to be the first of 2 city-funded pedestrian bridges that will span the 7-mile-long Oklahoma River. And then the other thing that I think is really exciting is this new multi-purpose stadium that you may have heard about.
Yes, yeah.
So I think it's right across from the Paycom Center, and it's across the highway, and it's a new venue. It's capable of hosting high school and collegiate and professional sporting competitions, as well as concerts and similar events. And I think that's where the professional Oklahoma City soccer team is going to be.
The OKC Energy.
Right.
Yes, they've been kind of on hiatus, but they are coming back. We will have a professional soccer team back.
Now, these are 2 of the things that I think our listeners may have heard of, but you just listen in the next few shows because I got some really exciting stuff. I've got Zach's PowerPoint that he used at the Rotary meeting, and I was pretty fascinated. I'll tell you, I was more engaged at that Rotary meeting more than at any time over the last year, and I do want to ask Zach Craig to join us on one of our shows because he was exuberant. I mean, he had a lot to talk about. So maybe just asking him to share about 2 of the projects that are going on. It's everything from the Civil Rights Center here in Oklahoma City to the Oklahoma City Zoo to new things over in the Chisholm Creek area.
It's really just exciting times for Oklahoma
We
City.
know for businesses that really want visitors to come in town, they're going to have to go to that new website, wallyhasthevisitors.com, and that'll be his business-to-business website.
you
We've got to get busy on that website.
Yeah, we better buy
Absolutely.
that.
Hey, let's go ahead and jump into our first House Talk segment of the morning. And as interest rates are notably up, perhaps somewhere near double what they were just 2 years ago.
Yeah, just about.
And we combine that with all the talk about how few homes are on the market. You said that just minutes ago. Where are home values this spring, and how do they compare with last time, maybe 2 years ago? Because I know a year ago to 2 years ago, they made a really big jump where in some places it was like 30% home values went up. Are we still seeing that? Has it slowed just a little bit? Where are we now compared to what it was maybe a year or two ago?
So if you listen today to this segment, I've got about 10 Oklahoma City cities, and you probably live in one of those. We have to sample the larger areas so that there's enough data, because I wanted to look at what's happened so far this year. And why? Because we're talking about higher interest rates and a little bit slower market and fewer buyers. And so I wanted to see what the market's done. And I think everybody's question listening today would be, yeah, I knew home values got really strong in 2022. The truth is, nationwide, the highest average sales prices topped out around April, May, June of 2022.
Okay.
And the inventory was at its absolute lowest point in January of 2022. So that tells you why the home prices were so strong from that first to second quarter. So let's take a quick look today and listen, because we're going to probably again touch on your city. I wanted to look at where we are today in 2024 through the first 5 months of the year, and then compare that to 2023, and then back to that really, really big year in 2022.
Yes.
What do you think, Dave? Cindy, do you think that the average home price is going to be higher now with rates the way they are than it was back in 2022 when rates were still in the 3s and 4s?
I'm going to take my slightly educated guess and just say that they haven't dipped. They're still, I'm going to say they're higher. I don't think they would fall back. The ascent would slow down a little bit, but they're always gaining momentum, always gaining in value. They just, that rate of value slows a little bit.
That's what I'm going to say, too.
Okay.
That's what I've seen.
Well, I'd say you both are correct, and so let's take a look at some quick values. So I'm going to look at Blanchard and Choctaw and Edmond and Moore and Mustang, and then I'd like to look at Nichols Hills, but there's just not enough data.
Right.
So this year through the end of May, there's been less than 30 sales in Nichols Hills. So the data set's a little bit too hard to study, and it doesn't show the averages correctly. So let's look at Blanchard. Do you know that since the end of 2022, that the average sales price is up 8.8%, even after that really hot market?
Yeah.
Average sales price today in Blanchard, just over $340,000. Now, if you look at it from last year, it's stable. Just what you talked about,
Okay.
Dave. Maybe there's a little ascent there, but it's very, very stable compared to 2023. Choctaw, up 2% since last year. But since the end of 2022, up 6.8%, almost 7% in Choctaw, now with an average sales price about $331,000. Let's look at a couple of other communities. Most everybody knows and understands that other than Nichols Hills, Edmond produces the highest average sales price in the metro. You know, it's been really stable over the last 2 years.
Okay.
So back in 2022, if you compare to today, over the last 5 months in 2024, values are up just over 2%. And last year, they were down about 1%. So very, very level.
Okay.
That tells you that Edmond is a community that people want to live in. That average sales price has been driven up to $412,000 in Edmond, which is one of the reasons, like you said, maybe it's still growing, but that ascent isn't happening quite as quickly. So you really typified that well. Moore blows me away, now with an average sales price almost as high as Norman. And that's amazing because Moore used to be $75,000 to $100,000 lower than Norman.
Okay.
Maybe it's because Moore has done such a great job on development.
That's
it's
right.
so close to
I
Oklahoma
think
City.
they've done a lot of that,
There's
right?
just great shopping. It's I-35 convenient. I have to say, Wally and I have tried to buy, as small investors, properties across the metro, and we own a home in Moore, and it pleases me that that house has gone up so much in value, and it's something that we can leave to our kids.
Since 2022, Moore's home values are up almost 9%. But do you know that last year alone, Moore's values went up 6.4%
Wow.
to an average sales price today of about $268,000
Have
more.
there been a lot of new developments in Moore? A lot of new houses that were built?
That's a
as
good
well?
question, Dave. So because it's so close to Tinker, the answer to that is no. You kind of have to begin going east when you compare it to a community like Yukon,
Okay.
where Yukon has land all over the place
Sure.
available. Let's look at Mustang quickly. Pretty stable over the last few years, up 3% in value last year. At the end of 2022, up 1.8% from today. So it went backwards and forwards a little bit to be very averaged out. Mustang's average sales price just barely under $300,000 today, $298,000. Norman is very stable with an average sales price today of $299,000.
You know, that's surprising. I would have thought that Norman's average sales price would be higher.
You would think so, too. It's a little bit landlocked. There aren't as many new homes in Norman. From the end of 2022, Norman's only up about 1.4% in value, but it's good to see the stability, isn't it?
Yes.
Like what you talked about
That's good
earlier.
if you're a home buyer, right?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely,
Right?
yeah.
Okay.
This is, again, you look at Blanchard and it's up almost 9%, more up almost 9% since 2022. Norman's got some good buys available. The last three cities I want to touch on, I'll go quickly here. Oklahoma City's values are very stable right now. From last year, Oklahoma City's average is actually down about 3%. But you both need to understand Oklahoma City's huge. Right?
That's what I was
There's so
just
many
going to say. This sample
pockets
is
and areas.
huge. Yes.
Right. There's more data there than any other community.
Okay.
Do you know that Tuttle's average sales price from last year, just in the first 5 months of this year, is up 8.1%?
Wow.
Is that because of all the new construction?
I think it's because of acreages and maybe not as many have sold, although there's a lot of sales in the Tuttle area. So I remember it was up to 346 a couple of years ago and then fell down some, and it's come storming back in Tuttle with an average sales price of almost $350,000.
Wow.
And finally, Yukon is also very stable, but from the end of 2022, average values are up 3.5% to, again, almost $300,000 to $295,000. So think about those cities that are so similar. Yukon's average sales price through the first 5 months of this year, $295,000. Oklahoma City, $270,000. Norman, $299,000. Mustang, $297,000. So a lot of data there, and then more at $268,000. So housing values are definitely headed up, and it is good news because even though there are fewer buyers and rates are higher, what you hit on a while ago is right. There's just not much to buy, and that's continuing to allow home prices to ascend.
Temperatures are rising too, and that falls in line with what Wally will share next. Stay tuned. It's Wally's Weekly Wisdom coming up.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful, from knowing which program fits your situation the best to identifying the best terms. Hi, I'm Chris Stoke with Gateway Mortgage. I work closely with you every step of the way, from pre-qualification to helping you choose the home loan that's right for you. My promise is to provide transparency, timely communication, personal service, and closings on time. Call me today at 405-253-2276. That's 405-253-2276.
NMLS 984758. Gateway Mortgage, a division of Gateway First Bank. NMLS 7233. Equal housing lender.
Have you heard the news? The Fed says rates will be higher for longer. So waiting to buy or sell a home no longer makes sense because competition increases in the spring for both home buyers and for home sellers too. If you'll be selling, get my guarantee in writing to sell your home at a price agreeable to you, or I'll buy it myself. Wally has the buyers. Call me today at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at 330-3000 and start packing. That's 330-3000.
Best Protect Roofing and Construction has been serving the Oklahoma community since 2017 with trusted professionals and a proven track record. Best Protect Roofing and Construction has the local knowledge to ensure every roofing project is compliant and hassle-free. They offer free roof inspections to assess damage, provide accurate quotes, and recommend the best solution for your home. Call today, 405-473-9599. Best Protect Roofing and Construction.
If you or a family member will be selling or buying a home and would like to schedule an appointment with Wally, call 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr.
We're back, and it's time for Wally's Weekly Wisdom. Wally, what do you have to pontificate this week?
Dave, let me ask you a question. So you just mentioned that we're going into summertime and temperatures are rising. We saw some of that this past weekend. Dave, how long would you say it would take to run up about a $20 air conditioning bill when it's warm like it is right now?
At my house?
Yes.
I mean, a few hours. I don't know.
Leaving the doors open.
Here's the reason for asking. This is last call for our listeners to service your AC unit now.
Okay.
And here's what I'd recommend doing. First of all, an air conditioning unit that's cooling really efficient, so like your outside unit working with the system, 18 to 20 degrees of cooling is really good.
So that's temperature differential from the air coming into the system to the cooled air going into your house.
Exactly right.
Okay.
So there's lots of systems on home inspections that we go out and check with customers, and they may be cooling only 7 to 10 degrees, which means that unit is running and running and running outside. So if you've seen some higher electric bills, or you just want to experiment, do you know for less than $20 you can go to Amazon and just buy what's called an infrared temperature gun?
I see inspectors using that.
Here's how easy it is, folks.
Okay.
So go to Amazon and buy you a gun. They're under $20. It's real easy. You'll turn on your air conditioning system, let it run for 15 minutes, and you go point it at your return air. It tells you what the temperature is going into your return air. And then you can turn around and point it at one of the supply vents. In other words, where is the air coming out? Folks, that air should be at least 15 to 20 degrees in cooling from where it's going in, return, to the supply. Most of the home inspectors today are telling us you should be getting about a 14 to 15 degree differential. If the air is going into your system at return and it's 77, it really ought to be coming out of the system at 62 to 63 degrees or a little colder,
Okay.
or your system is not cooling properly and you've got an issue.
What about, though, Wally, as the temperatures really rise and it's 95 outside? How does that impact?
Your temperature should be cooling well enough to get that at least 14 to 15 degree differential. So what happens, Dave, if you go buy this little gun like Wally says, you go point it at your system and you find that you've only got an 8 degree differential. Now it's time for a service call.
Yes.
But you avoided a service call. You think you might have a problem. For $20, you can figure this out on your own. You're going to do the same thing the home inspector does.
That's right.
Get this gun, point it at the inflow, point it at the outflow, and just see what that temperature differential is. So for our listeners, I felt like this was a timely subject because here comes the heat. June,
Yes.
July, August, and even, gosh, Dave, you've said at a lot of football games in the month of September.
It's a little warm.
Yeah. So this could run even through the first 2 or 3 weeks of September. You're talking about a $20 gun you can invest in, do your own research, and then call for that $100 call or $125 heat and air call. This is a money-saving idea for our listeners,
that's
and I'm
really
hoping
cool.
that will benefit a few of our listeners this summer. Gosh darn it, if you sit and run that unit all the time to try to achieve,
gonna wear out
it's just going to
faster.
wear it out, and you're going to have a much bigger bill.
Well, I'm looking to hear these recommendations that you have for home buyers in the marketplace, specifically habits you mentioned that should be kicked down the road. And what are these habits for home buyers, maybe mistakes that they're making that they need to kick?
You know, I read a lot to try to make sure we have enough fresh content for our show. So this one's going to come courtesy of realtor.com for the most part, because I like this list of really good ideas. So let's start with a big one. And Dave, that would be not knowing or asking what the seller wants when you're negotiating for a home. Because there are a lot of things that can help the seller make a decision to take your offer. And one of those might be how much earnest money you're offering. You know, earnest money is often called good faith money. Mm-hmm. And I've seen many buyers over the years come in on a $400,000 home and offer $1,000 earnest money. And when I sit down
That's
and present
a
that
little
to
low.
the sellers say, does that mean that if they walk away 6 days before closing, that all I would get would be $1,000, or I have to take them to court and use months and months and months to try to get them to buy my home? And the answer to that question is, yes, Mr. Seller, that's correct, what you're asking. And so earnest money can be a big stickler for sellers, and that's one of the things you should probably find out before you make an offer on a home. So that we move through our list pretty quick, the other one would be closing date. I mean, before I made an offer, I'd probably be calling the listing agent and trying to find out what's the seller's timeline. I want to make sure they have time to get out. I realize it's a very, very tight inventory right now, and the sellers put their home up. Are they buying another home? Are they moving out of town? Is there a closing date on the other end that they need to hit? Do they need a couple of extra days to get out? So remember that this is a habit that needs to be kicked. It's just drawing up a contract, putting in a closing date, putting in what you believe is right for earnest money. Might be best to ask those questions up front. The second one, Dave, would be second guessing yourself and missing out. You know, housing values are stable and continuing to go up. And why not get into home ownership and stop paying rent today? Get into an asset. Cindy, you said be able to write off that interest on your taxes, be able to go in and watch your home value go up, buying one of the biggest investments of your life. So be careful and don't second guess with very little inventory available. Boy, if you find a home like we've talked about that checks maybe it's 6 or 7 or 8 of the items, that you have 10 items on your list.
The floor plan, all those things. If it's checking several of those boxes, you really need to look at it. And you know, another one is staying with an agent that isn't a good fit. And I've seen this over the years. People will pick an agent because they're a family member or a friend of a family member. But that agent may not know the inventory, may not be able to find that home for the person. And likewise with a seller, that agent may be new in the business and really doesn't have the marketing knowledge to be able to find the right buyer.
Or how about the negotiation skills?
Yes.
That's a really big one. Another home buyer habit to kick is just asking the seller for too many goodies or too many freebies. So it can really throw a wrench in negotiating when you're just all about me. I want this. I want the washer dryer. I want the refrigerator. I want those curtains that the seller said they wanted to reserve. By the way, I want all the attached TVs and brackets on the wall. And those speakers up there on the wall are attached. So I also want the seller's surround sound amplifier. And I'd like them to leave the picnic table. You're doing your fingers here. I don't think you're playing a fiddle. You're talking about how much
cha-ching.
the buyer is asking for.
And psychologically, that's going to make a seller mad. And you want it to be a real win-win. And in the end, you want to get the home for the price you want. But if you've nickeled and dimed all these small things, it can cause a seller to really dig in their heels.
You said what I was going to say as well. Win-win. You want them to be happy as well, because a negotiation could take several days to a week. Yeah. Could take probably a little bit longer. And if you feel like you're winning and you keep pushing this and you get your way, but then another sticking point comes up 3 days later, and now all of a sudden
that seller digs their heels in.
Exactly. They're like, you know what? I was willing to maybe work with you on this point, but now I've given you so much that, no, I'm not going to do that. And now all of a sudden, where did you end up?
And I'll tell you when that'll happen is in the inspection. You may want that seller to fix something, but the seller feels like you've negotiated so hard on all these little details that they're now going to put their heels in and say no.
Now, we were kind of pounding on the buyers here about what they needed to be reasonable with, but let's also recommend a couple of things in this marketplace where there's very limited inventory and things that we saw, Cindy, back in 2021 and 2022, and that was, first of all, people not asking the right questions. Things like, you love the home, so you start spending money, you get an accepted contract, you order the appraisal, you order the inspections, now you're bought in, but you forgot to ask about the more important systems and things inside the home because you were just enamored with how the home looked. So think about the roof and the shingles and the insurability. Mm-hmm. If the shingles are already 13 years old and they may only have a life in Oklahoma of 17 to 18 years, and your insurance company's not going to give you full replacement coverage, that could be a really big expense a few years down the road, especially if you buy the home this year and it gets hailed on next year.
Oh, yes.
And the insurance company says,
you get a prorated amount of money and there's only a third of the life of the roof left.
There you go. Let's talk about the HVAC system. For instance, we all know that they've changed to this R410 refrigerant that doesn't hurt the atmosphere.
Yes.
I see some homes that are being sold that still have systems that are R22. Which means a complete equipment change out if just one component goes bad, like the coil or the condenser? What about older windows, or like Cindy was mentioning, poor insulation up inside the attic that's going to make your utility bills a lot higher, and that's going to hurt your affordability? And another really big one, Dave, is, gosh, walk around the home and look for foundation issues.
Yes.
Is that something that's only going to come up during the inspection, or do you have an acute enough eye to walk around the property and know what you're looking for? Now, that's where we can help as experts, and we understand construction, and we're not structural engineers, but after 35 years of doing this, there's just a certain amount of knowledge that comes from closing thousands of transactions, and we can help there.
Finally, we do not recommend that you waive your inspections. That's just not a prudent idea. You know, that went on when the market was so hot a couple years ago, and people just wanted the home, and they were willing to bid more than the listed price and potentially waive their inspections. Now, it's one thing where you may buy a home as is if it's something that's really in demand, but you still have an inspection contingency that would allow you to get out of the transaction if there are some things that can't be repaired.
The best advice, of course, to maybe give a little when negotiating for a home, and you might also set up some expectations for a buyer that the seller does their part when moving as well. Now, let's go on to the other side of the coin, being the seller and moving out of your home and getting everything in order, going to the closing. We're going to talk about, right after this break, avoiding all of the drama, the 11th hour headaches and things that could probably doom a closing, or that could really cause some consternation, if you will.
And you know what? That can happen at the 11th hour because there's a walkthrough right before closing. And that's where things can pop up.
To schedule an appointment with Wally Kerr to help you or a family member buy or sell a home, call or text at 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Wally will be right back with more of the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show right here on KOKC.
Looking for a cash offer for your home? If so, do you want to see just one offer, or would you prefer to receive multiple cash offers and you get to choose the one you want? IWantMultipleOffers.com is the place to go. And that's exactly what you'll get fast. You choose the closing date, no open houses, no strangers in your home, and no waiting to receive an offer. You can sell as is. Today we know that homeowners like you want options. Our cash offer program, where you receive multiple offers, not just one, allows you to do what you want to do. If the cash offers aren't quite as high as you want, you still have the option of placing your home for sale for only as long as you want. 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, you choose. And if it's not sold in that agreed period, you can take any one of the cash offers, including one from us. Visit IWantMultipleOffers.com. Get the options you want, or just give us a call today. Wally and Cindy Kerr at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at 330-3000.
Best Protect Roofing and Construction has been serving the Oklahoma community since 2017 with trusted professionals and a proven track record. Best Protect Roofing and Construction has the local knowledge to ensure every roofing project is compliant and hassle-free. They offer free roof inspections to assess damage, provide accurate quotes, and recommend the best solution for your home. Call today, 405-473-9599. Best Protect Roofing and Construction.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful. From knowing which program fits your situation the best to identifying the best terms. Hi, I'm Chris Doak with Gateway Mortgage. I work closely with you every step of the way, from pre-qualification to helping you choose the home loan that's right for you. My promise is to provide transparency, timely communication, personal service, and closings on time. Call me today at 405-253-2276. That's 405-253-2276.
NMLS 984758. Gateway Mortgage, a division of Gateway First Bank. NMLS 7233. Equal housing lender.
If you or a family member will be selling or buying a home and would like to schedule an appointment with Wally, call 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Now back to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr.
Well, Wally and Cindy, as longtime brokers and starting out as realtors, I bet you've had some closings where the buyer and seller maybe just weren't really happy with each other, felt like they didn't get along, or there wasn't the appropriate give and take in the negotiating, if you will. How did it go at closing? Did it get a little touchy? Was there some drama?
Well, you know, over the years, we have learned through experience, and we have said to ourselves, note to self, won't let that happen again. And some of those things revolve around what's going to stay with the property and what's not going to stay with the property, right? Wally,
Yeah,
you've got a couple stories on that.
I thought you had to enroll in the school of hard knocks somewhere, but they just kind of come your way, don't they? I do remember a closing, and I was probably 10 or 12 years into the business, and a really tough one where we wrote a contract with a buyer. She was a friend of ours for many, many years. The quick story was we wrote a contract, and it got to closing day, and the seller wasn't out. In fact, her garage looked a little bit like
your dad's garage.
Yeah, there we go. A little bit like a flea market, but packed in the garage. So kindly, my buyer said, tell you what, why don't I give you 3 or 4 more days to get moved out? And the seller said, thank you very much. And after 10 days, the buyer and I were talking and trying to figure out how we're going to make this happen. So I had to turn to the listing agent. We've really got to make this happen. I think the listing agent actually got some friends and got a truck and a trailer and started helping the seller move out. It got a little dicey at closing when we knew that she was that far off.
Yes.
I also remember one, Cindy, way back when I was brand new in the business and just learning the business, and this is where experience counts, where I put a home under contract, and it was my listing, and the seller wanted to keep the drapes in the baby's nursery, and I didn't get those reserved. And I remember writing
drapes are a big sticking point because they can match a bedspread, and it is amazing how emotional that is.
Hey, this has been over 30 years ago, and I remember writing a check for about $300, which really smarted to buy those curtains so that the seller could go back and buy. So there's a lot of things that can happen, but the first one I'd start with today is just move out on time.
That's right.
I know it's hard to get all of those things moved, isn't it, Cindy? Especially when you get to the last part of it. I know our last move was really, really difficult on getting some of those last items out, whether it's the things that don't fit in boxes like tennis rackets, maybe it's the limb cutter that you've got out in your garage that's 7 feet long, trying to move the basketballs and all the toys. And so, but you have to understand that the buyer has also made plans, and they've hired movers.
That's right.
And they may have given notice that they're going to be out of a rental. And so not being out on time is a real problem, and that can cause more difficulty at a closing probably than anything on our list today, right, Cindy?
That's right. And in California, it was customary when we sold that sellers got to stay in the home 3 days after closing. That was entirely problematic. But one thing I like about Oklahoma is you go to the closing table. Now your buyer has had a final walkthrough. You hand the keys to that buyer, and you have to have everything out, and the house should be clean.
That's always a little bit of difficulty because everybody
has a different standard. Over 35 years, Wally and I have walked into thousands of houses. And I have to say, everybody has a different standard. And I think for Wally and me personally, we're kind of in the middle. We aren't just crazy clean freaks, but on the other hand, I've seen some homes that weren't as clean as ours. So one of the things you can do if you're selling is, and you're going to be exhausted, hire a professional cleaning person to come in and do a deep clean, because you are going to be tired.
Yeah, even if you've never gone in and rented a house cleaner, this is probably the time to get that done. By the time you get everything out and all those last items, and you're exhausted and you think, oh my gosh, I have to go back and clean this place, remember that it's exciting to move on to your new step in life, but it's very easy to think, I'm done with the old house and I just want to be in the new one. This is probably a good time when you're so exhausted. Wouldn't you agree? To go back and hire a professional house cleaner.
Absolutely. And we kind of saw this play out in real life because we moved 7 years ago. And you think you're going to be really organized as you put things in boxes and you're going to have plenty of time and everything's going to be done perfectly. But by the end, I think you would agree, you're just throwing stuff in boxes and there are a million hangers on the floor.
One of the other things that really causes some issue, Dave, is unclear communication about what stays and what doesn't with the home. So a couple of quick examples. I had one many years ago where an older couple was buying a property and it had one of those big play forts. I mean, we're talking about the $10,000 deal.
Wow.
Well, it was anchored into the ground in concrete, and some of the posts were into the ground, which made it permanently attached.
That stays then.
The sellers were done with that. It was staying with the home, but the buyers, who were represented by another agent, weren't clear about hey, they want that to be removed.
They
and
may
the
not
sellers
have kids and have no need for it, no
Sure,
grandkids,
yes.
and they just want it gone.
So whether it's the refrigerator, whether it's draperies, one of the big ones today that we've talked about, maybe it's been 6 or 8 months ago, Dave, it's just a TV on the wall. If it's attached to a bracket, then the bracket stays and the TV stays unless it's reserved. So very clear communication about what stays, what you want, what you expect to be there when you close. That can make for a very, very ugly closing, very uncomfortable when both parties don't have a meeting of the minds.
And one thing that will assure a happy closing is good written instructions. Some homes have very complicated systems.
Operating maybe a keypad on an overhead garage door.
Yes.
And that's another item, is making sure so that there's a great closing, that you've got the garage door openers, and if you live in a gated community, the gate openers. Well, I've seen people who have shipped their cars somewhere or driven them.
Oh, and they left the garage door open.
Oh, and one of them was in a car that went to Hawaii.
That's right. And so what you want to do is, obviously, you don't need those anymore, but the buyers want them at closing,
Sure.
right? Don't forget to cancel your utilities. Otherwise, your bill's going to probably get run up. There's a lot of people that don't understand that even if the buyer calls the utility company and says, put them in my name, the utility company is not going to honor anybody turning those utilities off unless you're the owner of the home and can provide probably the last 4 of your social or your birth date. And buyers don't know that information.
And you're going to need to take them out of your name on a certain date. So
Sure.
both parties have to make that happen.
Also, making sure they've got your alarm code. Don't forget to cancel your email. But you know what the big one is today, Dave? Is apps on a telephone.
I was just going to say that. You had one where the alarm system all played into some app.
Well,
I
I'll
get
tell.
it now. Yeah, I didn't even think about
So
that.
I'll tell a quick story here. I just closed a home for about $1 million in Edmond. The owner had it rigged as a smart home, lighting, the sprinkler system, the pool system, screens on the back patio, door locks on the home, and then the thermostat. So there were 7 apps that ran that home. The buyer was a little bit older and was petrified that he was buying a home and wasn't going to be able to operate anything.
Sure.
Here's the big one, though, Dave. Think about this. Maybe you've got an app for your sprinkler system with a Bluetooth sprinkler system. Those are cool because they actually read the National Weather Service data and decide when it's going to water your yard and how
Wow,
much.
I didn't know
I love that.
But
That's
do you know that
cool.
you could sell me your home? I could download the app, but until you log out of it and delete that app, especially log out, I can't use your system. So apps are a big deal today because we're all using apps of all
Oh,
kinds.
I could have a lot of fun with that.
And that could cause a little drama if you get to closing and
Yes.
the buyer says, hey, by the way, I need you to show me those 4 apps and how to use the systems. And the sellers are sitting saying,
Sure.
we need to take our money and run and go close on another property. Sorry, we don't have time to do that. Even just a final walkthrough with the seller present and the buyer present, and both parties agreeing that for 2 hours they're going to stand and talk about when the trash day is, when do they come for compost and recyclables, where do you change the filters, how do you do this on the pool. It's just really nice to have a happy closing with buyers and sellers who have communicated well so that there
I
isn't
like
any
that.
drama at closing.
Yes.
Okay, so early in the show, we talked about home values and how much maybe they've changed out of the last couple of years, even different markets around the metro and what they've been doing. Let's talk a little bit about rates and maybe how it pertains to the market over the last year and maybe 18 months. It hasn't really seemed like a normal market that way as well. We've talked about the home prices. We're talking about rates now, of course, and even a couple of years that preceded that. So it wasn't really a normal market coming out of COVID and everything. So what are the rates doing now? Are we back to a normal market, even though they're a little high, or are we ever going to be back into a normal market as it proceeds towards rates?
I think we'll be back to a normal market when buyers really buy into the fact that rates are not that bad right now. So here's just a few things that I read this last week, and I jotted down a couple of notes. This came from Bankrate online, and I think it summarizes where we are really well right now, Dave. So we all know there's a housing shortage. It's a problem of supply and demand, and there's really just not enough housing supply to meet the demand of those who want to buy, especially millennials. I just keep reading articles about how much and how badly millennials want to buy.
Yes.
They're priced out of the marketplace, and there are no homes that fit their family. So these rising rates and inflation have contributed to a shortage of available homes and even new home construction. Even though it seems like there's a lot of new homes being built right now, we've never been able to keep up since the Great Recession of 2009. There are several factors there that contribute.
You know, one factor that really contributes to the shortage of available homes is institutional investors. They've bought up housing inventory to flip or rent out for profit. And large investors purchased more than 8% of homes on the market as recently as December of 2022. And that was the highest December share of investors on record.
Yeah, and that removes those units from the pool of availability for just buyers. So the current rate environment is complicated. Buyers saw their purchasing power plummet as the mortgage rates went up last year to the highest point in more than 20 years. So when rates hit 6%, a lot of home buyers put their search just on hold. But then at 7%, there became an even bigger tipping point where people just exited the market en masse and just decided they didn't want to buy. The average 30-year rate as of May 1st, about a month ago, was about 7.4%, but it has come down over the last month, as we heard from Chris Doak, a couple of weeks ago.
And, we've talked about high mortgage rates that continue to deter homeowners from selling for fear of giving up their locked-in low rates. Many homeowners with mortgages are currently locked in at sub 5% rates. But I want to point out that time is going to cure this. We've talked about in the past the whole reason to move. We kind of joked about the fact that diamonds, diapers, divorce, unfortunately death, but those are all things that happen in life and cause, whether it's a marriage and now your family's growing, maybe you're retiring and have to downsize, but life will continue to happen. And I can tell you, over the years that Wally and I have owned houses, today's rates really are not bad historically.
Dave, let's get back to your question of, are we in a typical housing market? So traditional wisdom says that the real estate market needs about a 5 to 6 month supply of housing available to be balanced. The National Association of Realtors existing home sales data showed that in March of this year, there was only about a 3.2 month supply, and that's healthier than the record low we talked earlier in early 2022. There's only a 1.6 month supply of housing.
Wow.
So we're way off of those numbers, as low as they were, but still, we need more housing available.
What exactly do those numbers look like locally?
Great question. So we talked about how the average sales price is still going up despite the really low inventory. So regarding the number of homes available today and the absorption rate, in other words, how many months supply is available, if you look at all price points in the MLS, there's actually a 2.65 month supply. So just about 2 2/3 of a month. But Dave, do you know, and Cindy, if you take that down below $250,000,
I'll bet it's really
there's only a
low.
1.7 month supply.
Wow.
That's where the first-time buyers are trying to buy.
Yes.
Those who are looking for affordability.
Buyers and sellers are really feeling the impact of insufficient housing inventory. And many would-be sellers are just unable to list their homes because they don't want to lose their interest rate and or they can't find a replacement home.
In summary, the current housing shortage is probably going to persist for some time. And while lower interest rates might help, that alone is unlikely to solve the problem completely. Increases in total housing builds would also help, though those high material costs and labor shortages still persist, and that means that new homes are higher in price. We're really, really low on inventory, and people do want to buy. I think this is going to continue to be just a slower year for real estate sales overall, but I can see it come storming back. And whether that will be next year or the year after, I don't know. But I'm going to bank on the fact that maybe the Fed will give us some relief this year, and it could be a stronger market in 2025.
I was going to say that if rates came down some and then you had that confluence of construction going up, I think we're going to get to a point, and you've got just life happening where people need to move.
We'll be back to wrap up the show. And Wally, I think we have some open houses. Maybe we can talk about that next.
Sounds great. We'll tell our listeners about where we are this weekend and where they can come see us.
Finding the right mortgage can be stressful, from knowing which program fits your situation the best to identifying the best terms. Hi, I'm Chris Stoke with Gateway Mortgage. I work closely with you every step of the way, from pre-qualification to helping you choose the home loan that's right for you. My promise is to provide transparency, timely communication, personal service, and closings on time. Call me today at 405-253-2276. That's 405-253-2276.
NMLS 984758. Gateway Mortgage, a division of Gateway First Bank. NMLS 7233. Equal housing lender.
So you thought interest rates were going to go down? Hey, me too. It's Wally Kerr, and despite today's interest rates, the market's already picking up. Why sell your home without a safety net? It's like walking a high wire at the circus. There's just too much at stake. Call me to get your written guarantee that I'll sell your home in an agreed period or buy it myself at a price you and I agree to up front. Ask for Wally when you call us today at your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty at 330-3000. 330-3000.
Best Protect Roofing and Construction has been serving the Oklahoma community since 2017 with trusted professionals and a proven track record. Best Protect Roofing and Construction has the local knowledge to ensure every roofing project is compliant and hassle-free. They offer free roof inspections to assess damage, provide accurate quotes, and recommend the best solution for your home. Call today, 405-473-9599. Best Protect Roofing and Construction.
If you or a family member will be selling or buying a home and would like to schedule an appointment with Wally, call 405-330-3000 or go to wallysguarantee.com. Now back to Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr.
Just before the break, I mentioned to you that you might have some open houses or some houses to check out.
Got 4 open this weekend, Dave. We've got a new listing in Edmond that will be open just an hour on Sunday. Now, the rest of our open houses are open 2 to 4.
Okay.
This is a great Edmond home just off of 33rd and Bryant at 3008 McKenzie. It was built in 2015, so it's less than 10 years old.
Okay.
3,700 square feet, all on one level with a really nice split plan. The master back in one corner,
that.
an in-law plan on the same side on the front corner, and then there's spare bedrooms across the house, plus a study, plus a great media room. This is a beautiful home in Thornbrook Manor, and it's priced at $679,500. And don't miss that one if you're looking for.
And what's the time on that?
That's open from 1 to 2. And if you're looking, or maybe a friend or family member is, we have 3 other homes also open this weekend. One of those is 3605 Joshua Lane that just had a $26,000 reduction.
Okay.
That's a 5,000 square foot home in a gated community and more. That's open from 2 to 4. The 2 other open houses this weekend are at 3238 Triple Bar Ranch Road.
I love that.
And that is in Norman, and that's a brand new community, 4-bedroom, study, beautiful, gorgeous home on 1 acre with well and septic, natural gas, OEC fiber. It's a brand new neighborhood with lots available between 1 acre and 3.6 acres that you can buy and build a home on. Finally, we've got one open at 18403 Tombstone Trail, and that is down in the Goldsby area.
Okay.
This is a beautiful home that is only a few years old and absolutely stunning on a half-acre lot. This home is about 2,800 square feet, and it is also open from 2 to 4, and I believe that home is priced just under $500,000. So if you're looking for a neighborhood where you can have a shop building, and I believe that one's even got a small shop building on it, maybe like a 12 by 24. That's another great home to see. All of those open 2 to 4, except for the new listing in Edmond. Again, that's in Thornbrook Manor, and that's open from 1 to 2.
Well, as always, you can hear replays of the show at wallytalkshouses.com. Go there and just hit the subscribe button or follow button. It's one of those 2. You can't miss it. It's up in the corner, and then you'll get notified when new shows are put up there, and you can search by topic. Of course, all of the major podcast platforms have the show as well. Just search Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and you'll get all the shows there as well. Plenty of places to be able to get your fill of Wally's Weekly Wisdom.
Dave, it is buying and selling season. We are down to less than 15 homes for sale.
My.
Everything else that our agency has is currently under contract, and we need some great homes to sell. So if you are thinking of selling, or a friend or a family member, would you please refer them our way. Have them call and ask for me or Cindy at 330-3000. And if you're thinking about buying, of course, we'd like to help you with that endeavor too. Our Guaranteed Home Sale Program helps those who need to transition from one home to another and not get stuck owning two homes at the same time. So if you think that that program might help you out, give us a call and we'll be glad to provide a consultation, either by phone or in person. We'd love to meet you and have the privilege of working with you.
You guys have a great rest of your weekend.
Thanks, Dave. You too.
You've been listening to the Your Home Sold Guaranteed radio show with Wally Kerr. Heard every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. and replayed on Sundays at noon here on 1520 a.m. and 95.3 FM KOKC. Wally's name is his promise. Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. To speak with Wally directly about selling your home or buying, call or text him to schedule an appointment at 405-330-3000. 405-330-3000. Or go to wallysguarantee.com. That's wallysguarantee.com.